The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few trending topics. These are things that are current, going on in our world, lots of things that we've been talking about, especially people our age. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what's happening in Nepal. So in Nepal, there's a lot of protests that have been happening, and it's primarily by a group who identify themselves as Gen Z, so lots of younger people. It started because of a social media ban that was done because some things weren't getting approved in Parliament, but the people who are protesting thought that they were trying to silence them. I was just wondering, what are some of your thoughts on that?
So from what I kind of researched about it for the show, I didn't really know much about it before going into everything, but it kind of seems like there's just everything's gotten kind of blown into the extreme because the protests haven't been peaceful, but at the same time the government's retaliation hasn't been that good either, so it's been causing a lot of injuries and like even deaths upon the protesters, which I feel like overall isn't really the best.
The last time I checked, 15 people I believe died, 3 of whom were police officers, so there has been a lot of deaths happening.
Yeah, I saw that because I was doing some research on it, just like because I didn't really know like the start of it. I saw that there was a social media ban and a lot of corruption happening in the government, and there's a lot of like their kids posting, like the government officials' kids posting on social media. So they kind of like took action against that, and then I think 19 lost their lives in the first protest, and then everything just kind of blew up from there.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have a interim prime minister.
Yes, they
That was
do.
elected through Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's the freedom of speech is such a vital right of the entire world recognized by the United Nations, to where their freedom of speech was taken away. They get the right to protest, and peaceful protests were happening prior, and they were not being received. Even according to the United States Constitution, an uncivil protest is allowed if your government is not functioning, to where it's something that needed to happen. And could it have happened in other ways? Yes, but it's something that was gonna happen one way or another, and the deaths are very sad. But if a government is hiding intense criminal stuff, there's probably deaths they were hiding anyway.
That's a fair point. Does this institute, like, does such social media be a constitutional right? Or not a constitutional right, but like access to social media? Should that be, like, does that fall under freedom of speech then?
I see, it depends, because it's the decision of the app itself. The ban of social media, period, was to silence the youth, because that is the main way of our communication, both here in America and everywhere in the world, to where because of that, that's why they banned it. They didn't ban it for safety reasons. They didn't ban it for like mental health reasons. They banned it to stop communication, to where that was the equivalent of back in the day cutting off a mail route.
Yeah, no, exactly.
To where, to me, it's taking away that freedom of expression and that freedom of religion that we are certified and promised as human beings.
Here in the United States.
Here in the United States, but I don't believe Nepal is part of the United Nations, but the United Nations includes, I believe, right now 170 of 270 countries, all of which have agreed to that.
Okay.
To where for a majority of the world, the right to free speech, the right to clean drinking water, the right to feel safe in your own home and express yourself are human rights according to the Geneva Convention, as well as the United States. Not the United States and the United Nations.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So from what I read, it wasn't banned to stop people from expressing their freedom of speech. It actually wasn't really banned at all. There was some processes that multiple social media apps needed to go through with a government official that didn't get done in time. They had a deadline for it and they didn't do it. And so those apps were not allowed to be used in Nepal because the apps didn't respond to these people in government in time. So it wasn't done on purpose from what I could tell. It was genuinely just at the fault of the social media apps, but it was taken as an absence of free speech by people who use them the most, the younger generation.
Were there restrictions they were putting on them, like causing them to meet with government officials in the first place? Kind of, like, do you get what I'm saying? Was that kind of like made to like, was that like a ploy to get them to, because they knew they wouldn't be able to meet? they're like, oh, they won't be able to meet us on these terms, so this is just a way for us to get rid of it.
I didn't read anything about that.
Okay.
The sources I was looking at were kind of unbiased in that area, but it's possible. It's very possible that was the reason they were doing that. So our next topic is actually somewhat similar to this. It's a topic of freedom, but it's about guns and gun freedom in America. A lot of debate has come up recently, especially with recent deaths in political positions in the government, and a lot of the recent school shootings like Evergreen High School. And so it's caused a lot of debate, especially online and in person, about whether or not gun freedom should be still had in America or if it should be slightly restricted. Does anyone have any ideas on that?
The one big thing I want to say on this is that even like if they do ban guns, does that not just give us a segue into like how the UK has mass stabbings? Does that not just like push us in a different direction?
I agree completely. I think we already have guns in our country. You ban them, people are just going to have them.
Yeah,
and they're
no,
just going to
exactly.
be illegal.
And then you're not going to be able to take them back from them either. Is
yeah,
the other
you can
issue
do
there.
buyback programs. Those are very common in lower income areas where gun violence is popular. But then you can't stop gun violence. But in my opinion, when we were given the right to bear arms, at the time it was muskets and bayonets.
Yeah, it's not full.
It wasn't AK-47s. It wasn't sniper rifles. To where I think we need to take that into account when, yes, we have the freedom to bear arms, the freedom of protecting yourself as a human here in America, but then also, I'm not riding a horse.
That's a fair
Why
point.
would I go by the same constitution that they were riding horses and didn't have full electricity yet?
Yeah, almost.
To where it's like, oh yeah, well, I drive in a car, and that's transport, but then also I shoot my AK, that's the same as a bayonet.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
No.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely become a more modern issue with more modern weapons as well, because when it was obviously enacted back in the 1700s, I believe, it was the technology definitely wasn't as advanced as it is now. So I feel like even going into place of having more regulations or making it not as easily accessible, or because even for driving cars, I know at least like I had to go through a lot of driver's training and like stuff like that to even just get a license, and it's something that like almost everyone has. And I guess I don't really know the full protocols for buying firearms, but it doesn't seem like it's as intense or something like that. It seems a little simpler, so there's could be a lot of issues solved by having more things put in place to like make sure that everyone that's like able to access these weapons are being like of sound in mind and body, things like that.
I feel like I would be agreeing with you all in that. I'm a teacher and a future educator of elementary students, so I really don't love the fear of going into work every day knowing this could be my students' worst or last day of their lives. It's a painful thing to think about. However, I grew up in a family where we exercised our rights with guns. We hunted, we had multiple, I have my own. And it's similar to the right of speech. We have a right to defend ourselves. We have a right to have these weapons, and we need to be cautious of that. We need to have regulations, but still ensure that we're not taking it away entirely, essentially.
To go off of what you said about hunting too, did you ever do hunter's safety when you were like 14?
Yes.
Would you say that like that's harder? It's harder to get your hunting license or like your permit to hunt than it is to get a gun.
I would say
I feel
so.
like 100%.
Yes.
Which is crazy. I feel like they should at least be on par with each other.
Yes.
If not, like the regulation for getting a gun should be more.
Yeah. I agree with you.